I was the only girl among the 4 families, growing up alongside 3 boys. Now that my family has fallen on hard times, the elders planned for me to help through an arranged marriage, wanting me to choose one of my childhood friends as a husband. Daniel Conway gave me a disdainful glance and flatly refused. I won't marry her. I only see her as a friend. I prefer gentle, obedient girls. The usually mild-mannered Nolan Hale spread his hands helplessly. I only think of her as a good friend. Nathan Rangel said coldly, she's too reckless and foolish to be my wife. Faced with their merciless rejection and belittlement, my parents could only laugh awkwardly. After enduring this humiliation, I completely gave up hope. I told my parents, Mom, Dad, I already have a boyfriend. In the private room, Daniel had his sleeves rolled up, one arm casually draped over the back of his chair as he lounged there, laughing and chatting with Nolan. Nathan kept his head down, staring at his phone, fingers idly sliding across the screen. The cold light reflecting off his glasses only emphasized his detachment. As my parents awkwardly tried to smooth things over, all 3 men displayed impatient expressions. Until I uttered those words, Mom, Dad, I already have a boyfriend, and the room instantly fell into dead silence. Daniel and Nolan turned to look at me simultaneously. Nathan also lifted his head, fixing me with a meaningful gaze. Pretending not to notice their reactions, I turned to my equally shocked parents and said, you should have told me about the arranged marriage earlier to avoid this misunderstanding. They're right. Although we grew up together, I've always seen them only as friends, nothing more. In truth, my parents, fearing I would feel embarrassed, hadn't informed me this was a matchmaking dinner. After careful consideration, they had selected the affectionate Nolan, who was 2 years younger than me. For some reason, Daniel and Nathan had also come along. While I was slightly annoyed that my parents had kept this from me, I felt more sorry for them. I remember when my family was still well off, my mother once asked if I had someone I liked. When I turned my face away shyly, unable to answer, she immediately sensed something and teasingly asked if I had feelings for one of the 3 boys. I stopped her, my face flushing red. She caught on immediately, a knowing smile crossing her face. Since then, I'd kept my feelings deeply hidden. Even my parents couldn't guess who I truly liked. Now, my family had fallen on hard times due to my father's failed investments, and we were distanced by the other 3 families. My mother knew how stubborn and proud I was. She believed that without her help, I might never confess to the person I liked. That's why they arranged this matchmaking dinner without telling me. Although Nolan's parents hadn't arrived, Nathan and Daniel had come. My parents took this matchmaking dinner very seriously. They honestly explained our family's difficulties, stating that if I genuinely connected with one of the 3 men, a marriage alliance would be the best outcome. But if none of us were interested, the gathering would simply be treated as a casual meeting with no expectations. However, my parents never anticipated that these 3 boys, who had grown up with me, would reject me so bluntly. I had grown accustomed to Nathan, Daniel, and Nolan's cold attitude toward me, but I couldn't bear to see my parents' forced smiles gradually freeze. I felt my heart being squeezed tight, a sharp ache spreading through my chest. Finally, unable to contain myself, I interrupted their cruel words, my voice cutting through the tension. Before my parents could ask what was happening, I stood up, swept a cold gaze around the room, and said, I see none of you really want to be here. If that's the case, let's not waste any more of each other's time. My parents went ahead to get the car. Just as I was about to follow them, someone grabbed my arm from behind. I turned to face Daniel's angry expression. He wore a white button-up shirt over a black low-neck tee. The 2 diamond studs newly pierced in his ears were particularly eye-catching, highlighting his sexy collarbone and bold, unruly appearance that perfectly matched his personality. Daniel looked down at me with a mocking smile. Grace Watson, haven't seen you for a while and you've gotten even more temperamental. Weren't you on extended leave? Where did you find a boyfriend? How old is this Christmas guy? What does he look like? Do I know him? This barrage of aggressive questions seemed concerned, but I knew better. If I answered honestly, I'd inevitably face his scornful ridicule. This had happened too many times before. Almost reflexively, I yanked my arm away and shouted, none of your business. Daniel stared at his empty hand in disbelief. His smile instantly vanished as he frowned at me, his expression darkening. Just then, Nolan peeked out from behind Daniel. He grinned, showing his little canine teeth. Why such a big reaction, Grace? His voice was gentle and pleasant, his tone lively, qualities that easily made people feel close to him. But his words were cutting. Don't tell me you actually have a boyfriend now? Aren't the 3 of us enough? His smile deepened while his eyes filled with malice. How promiscuous. Nolan always referred to the 3 of them as my boyfriends, as if I were some flirt with high status. But in our little group of 4, I was the one who had exhausted myself trying to fit in with them. I used to delude myself, thinking that although they loved to tease and belittle me, perhaps that was just how boys express their feelings. After all, they played with me and stood up for me when others bullied me. We grew up together, and I thought I was different in their eyes. Until that incident happened last time, I finally understood that from the beginning to the end, I was nothing but a plaything in their eyes, a disposable clown for their entertainment when they were bored. I locked eyes with Nolan. He was still smiling, eagerly waiting to see my reaction to his hurtful words. But I stared back at him with a completely blank face for a moment, then turned and walked away. I hadn't gone far when Nathan's cold voice came from behind. When are you coming back to class? I paused but didn't look back. For this normal question, I did respond, in a couple of days, probably. Immediately after, I heard Nolan make an annoyed tisk sound. He deliberately raised his voice, Grace, you sure have patience for your ex-boyfriend. But, you've been broken up for so long, you still care about him? Ironically, among these 3, Nathan, who was most resistant to arranged marriages and had just called me stupid, was actually my ex-boyfriend, and he was even the one who had confessed to me first. Unlike the 3 families with generations of accumulated wealth, the Watson family was a newcomer. To be precise, my father had seized an opportunity early in his career, which catapulted him to success and allowed our family to stand alongside the 3 prestigious households. However, However, this was merely a facade. Behind closed doors, many mocked us as nouveau riche, claiming we didn't belong in their circle and predicting our eventual downfall. I was young then and wanted to confront them in my anger. My father stopped me, saying earnestly, if our family wants to truly establish ourselves, we must maintain good relationships with these people. So I swallowed my rage and began pretending to be carefree and easygoing, trying desperately to fit in with those wealthy heirs. Later, after discovering Daniel and his friends' special status in their social circle, I followed them like a shadow from elementary school through middle school and all the way to university, evolving from being excluded and teased to gradually being accepted. My initial motives for approaching them weren't pure, but after so many Christmases together, I had come to view them as my closest friends. Until my father's investments failed and the stock market crashed, plunging our family into financial trouble. Their attitude toward me changed dramatically as they began to distance themselves. During that long period of confusion, I finally understood that our relationship had never been equal. This time, I stopped trying to please them. I simply went to school and returned home, learning to adapt to life without them. However, misfortune continued to follow me when I was kidnapped. When I found myself surrounded by familiar faces demanding ransom, including some I considered friends, I couldn't believe they would target me. I thought it was just a prank and even laughed, offering to lend them money. Only when they demanded an enormous sum that I could never afford did I realize the gravity of the situation. They stripped me of everything valuable I had. They kept me captive for 2 days without water. When I overheard them anxiously discussing how they were too afraid to extort my parents and were planning to sell me instead, an absurd, devastating feeling washed over me. The scene was like watching children holding kitchen knives threatening to kill someone, ridiculous because of their immaturity, yet disturbing because of their serious expressions and the weapons in their hands. This absurdity transformed into bone-chilling fear when they stripped me naked and took photos to sell. I curled up, screaming curses and threats until my voice was hoarse, but everyone could see the panic beneath my facade of composure. One of them was Leo Clark. He had been my friend. He crouched down, sighed, and reached out to touch me while feigning sympathy. Grace, forgive me. I actually really like you, and I don't want to do this. Before he could finish, he let out a scream. I had bitten his finger with unprecedented force, nearly severing it. The group panicked and tried to stop me. In the chaos, the warehouse door suddenly swung open, and blinding light flooded the dark space. I looked up to see a tall figure standing against the light. It was Nathan. After being rescued that day, I was afraid to leave the house for a long time. The unexpected betrayal from a friend, the sudden kidnapping and extortion, and being stripped naked without dignity to have various photos taken, all of these left deep psychological scars on me. I was mentally strained, on the verge of breakdown. During that period, Nathan, who had always been cold and harsh, stayed by my side. I had never seen him so gentle and patient, especially toward me. He seemed to sense my collapse and depression. Though normally a man of few words, he began finding various topics to chat with me every day. I stayed at Nathan's private apartment. He helped me take leave from school and kept everything hidden from my parents. He also used his connections to privately punish Leo and his group. He even managed to keep his closest friends, Daniel and Nolan, at bay. He didn't let news of the incident leak out and prevented anyone from disturbing me. Like a cold rain suddenly warming into gentle mist under spring sunshine, he kept me safely sheltered beneath his protective wing. His maturity, steadiness, and reliability gradually opened my tightly closed heart. I couldn't help but grow dependent on him. Finally, with hope and nervousness, I asked him, "Why are you being so nice to me?" I remember clearly how Nathan was wearing comfortable loungewear, sitting beside me on the carpet. His sleeves were half rolled up, revealing strong arms as he skillfully twirled a pen between his fingers. He took off his glasses, with a few strands of hair falling across his forehead, looking quite relaxed. When he looked at me, his eyes held an indescribable tenderness and affection. Instead of answering my question, he smiled slightly and asked, "Would you like to date me?" Those words made my heart race. I fell headlong into the rare and irresistibly seductive trap of Nathan's gentleness. I had no reason to refuse him. Under Nathan's care, I slowly overcame my psychological scars and became cheerful again. Even now, thinking back, it still seems incredible to me. Nathan appeared indifferent on the surface, but in reality, he was extremely assertive and controlling. During our passionate relationship, Daniel was forced to restrain himself from being casual with me. Nolan also had to hold back from joking around with me. Whenever I felt even slightly uncomfortable, Nathan would take it very seriously, swooping in to address the situation immediately. I was so blissfully happy I almost fell in love with Nathan completely, even spending countless hours daydreaming with a foolish smile about what kind of wedding dress I would choose when marrying him, imagining every detail of our perfect day together. However, Nathan's tenderness toward me was all an act. Everything he gave me was fake. I'll never forget that day when I cooked for the first time. With hands covered in cuts and burns, wasting countless ingredients through my inexperience, I laboriously prepared 18 dishes, pouring my heart into each one, just because Nathan said he wanted to eat food made by me at his birthday gathering. The doorbell rang, and I opened it with nervous anticipation, expecting praise and admiration. Instead, I was met with cruel laughter. A group of people mercilessly mocked me. Nolan laughed so hard he couldn't straighten up. Daniel whistled mischievously while recording me on his phone, capturing my ridiculous appearance in an apron with a spatula in hand. And Nathan, he leaned against the doorway, smiling faintly as he watched it all, like a player admiring his winning game.